Hello and welcome back to today's lesson of 3D drawing. Obviously in the last lesson we did test results for the chassis, so what I'm now going to do is look to move forwards now and start to draw the jack-in points. So what I'm initially going to look at, if we look at the pictures, we've got two on each side, and in each of the four positions where they are, you've always got what looks like this I-beam coming outside and then the jack to the right hand side of it. It's the same on both sides of the wagon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this as a new body, and I'm going to use the pattern tool on one side and then the copy tool to copy that, rotate it through 180 degrees, and then that will give us the pattern for the other side as well. So we're just going to start with the one over here. We're going to start drawing in this position here because we've got a nice open gap to draw on. So if we turn the canvas on, we're going to create a sketch, making sure the radio button's on the chassis. And I'm going to create the sketch off of this base plate here, so the bottom of the chassis here. And initially all I'm going to draw is a rectangle. I don't want it to snap to the corner here because I don't want it to become the same part of the body. So I'm going to zoom right in, and I'm going to create, with a slight gap there, a box. I'm going to go, let's go for 3mm wide, and I'm going to go for 2.5mm deep, just to give us a bit of meat on this. We're going to extrude this downwards, and if we rotate to the front side, we can see on the canvas where it's going to be. Okay, what I've got to be wary of is how much room we're giving here, because this bogey's got to pivot. So I am going to have to draw this slightly under scale, so that we're not going to be having an issue with the bogey point here. As I said, I'm going to create it as a new body. I'm going to click on OK at that point now. Okay, so we've got this roughly in the right positions, roughly at the right height. So the first thing I'm going to draw is this I-beam shape to come forwards off of the front here. So we're going to create a sketch on the front of that surface, and then we're going to create a rectangle shape initially. And I'm going to do the rectangle just because it's easiest to then have the top and bottom sides, they all match. Then we're going to create another rectangle inside that. And you snap into both sides like that, and I'm going to dimension the gap at the top as 0.2, and the same for the gap at the bottom, 0.2. The height from the top, I'm going to dimension as 0.4, and the overall height is 3.45. The width of it, I don't click anything, is going to be 1.15mm. Okay. Then we're going to create another rectangle. I'm going to create it large down the middle to start with, and then I'm going to use the midpoint constraint to constrain the little one to the large one, so it's now midpointed. And then when I dimension between those two, I'm going to create that as 0.3mm. That's moved sideways a little bit. No, it hasn't. That's fine. That's actually how I want it. The only thing that's missing is the dimension there, 0.3mm. So now you can see I've got my I-beam shape. Okay. If we look at this, there is a couple of diagonal supports further in, but I'm going to use the I-beam to start with to drag forwards. So if I press escape, go back to normal cursor, and then I can zoom in, select those three profiles to extrude forwards. Now if we look at the picture, we're looking to bring this probably in line with the front of the axle box there. So if we just snap it to the front of that axle box, it's gone 1.5mm forwards. Okay, so we've now got that I-beam sticking forwards. Excellent, this is exactly what we're after. Okay, so we've now got these two diagonals, top and bottom. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go back into my sketch I've just drawn, 89, and then I'm going to draw. I'm going to edit that sketch. So I've turned the sketch back on because I needed it to be on rather than off because of the extrusion. When you do the extrusion, it turns it off automatically. So now I'm just going to draw couple of lines. I'm going to change the degrees to 45 and then snap it to that inner rectangle like that. Same both sides. See, I don't need to define the degrees there because I've snapped it to the same height as this one. For some reason the angle degrees isn't working there, so I just check that that's okay. As you can see, that's already defined. Weird how it's doing that for some reason. And then all I'm going to do is select those 4 triangles and then extrude those. Now, I don't want them to come as far forwards as the I-beam, because they are, if you look at the picture, they are recessed in. So I'm only going to come forwards 1 millimeter, and then you can see that you've got that diagonal in there. And by the time we've got the things next to it, you're not going to notice the fact that it's all the way back. It's giving support for the whole of this top beam rather than just having a small little bit in the middle there. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to draw is the actual jacking point itself here. All we've got is a rectangle, a square coming out forwards, and then 2 circular tubes top and bottom. So it's quite a simple one to draw. We're just going to draw it on this panel here. There. If we turn the canvas back on to get rough heights, so we're going to go for that rectangular sort of shape. There. Let's define that. 1.5. Do dimensions, we're going to go to the edge, 0.25, and from the top edge, 1.6 millimeters. How far does it come forward? So it's about level with the end of the I-beam there. So if we just extrude this to the end of the I-beam, which is 1.5 millimeters. Okay, and then as we look in the picture, we've got 2 tubes coming out. This one here looks a little bit smaller than the top one. This does look like it's got a thread on it. There's no point drawing a thread in Fusion, because when you draw, it's really dark. The thread tool that we've got in Fusion, all it actually does is draw like a picture. It doesn't actually give you the thread, so there's no point in actually using it. And it's so small anyhow that you're not going to notice. So we'll just draw a normal standard center point there, center point here, and I think I'm going to go for about 0.5 millimeters on the bottom. I'm going to extrude this downwards, rotate it down. Looking at the picture, it comes to about the top point of this surface here. So if we just select that like that, and then we'll create one on the top. Exactly the same process. Find the center point of that square, that square, and I'm going to go slightly bigger again. I'm going to go for about 0.75. And then we can extrude this upwards. Okay, if we look at the pictures as a reference, height-wise, that's coming pretty much all the way to the top again. So if we just rotate that and select it to the top surface there, select the joint. Okay, so body-wise, now what we've got in here is this whole box that we've just drawn as a separate body. Okay, now if we look around, is there any more details really here we could draw? You could put these little tiny thin slivers on the front of this rectangle, but you're only going to bring that forward maybe 0.1 millimeters, so you're not really going to notice it. If we scroll through on the other pictures, again, there's not really a lot there that you could maybe draw the diagonals here, but they're so far back in there they're not really going to be noticed again. So I don't think I'm going to bother with any extra detail within this area here. I'm just going to go with that as it is. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to copy this over, place one here, and then rotate it and put it on the other side as well. Okay, so if we select the body and we'll do copy and then paste, we should get another body here. There we go, and then we can move this across. We can try and get it in the position we want. Now, what we can notice here is if we put it right up against the side, if I show you what happens, if we put it in its real position, which is ever so slightly back from there, about there, okay, and then click on OK, you can see how that's now interfering with that buffer beam. And obviously we drew this buffer beam here, this extra bit to make this a bit thicker and supported. Now it's your choice whether you want to have it in that position there, but turn this canvas off so you get a better look. You can see how it looks, it's overlapping slightly. If we look at the picture here, let's go back to this picture, how it sits right up against it. So if it's your choice really, if you want to have that like that, okay, or you could have that ever so slightly back in. So it's completely up to you how you do it. Okay. So now we've got those, what we're going to do is we're going to copy those across. So if we select those two, again do copy and then paste. If we come up over to the top here, we can drag them across. You can see how we've got extra copies. We can rotate these around through the 180 degrees. And if we come around to the side here, you can see how we've now got them the correct direction around. We can bring them across. Ever so slightly the other way. Yeah, I'm going to go 36.5 there. Okay, and then next thing is we need to look at the position in that direction. Okay, so I think that that looks like they're roughly in the right position. I'm going to click on OK there, and then if we do inspect there to that edge, maybe how I want it. No, it's not. Close that. If we inspect that edge to that face, so we've got 0.5 millimeters sticking out there. If we do the same on this side, to inspect there to that face. .5, so that's spot on where we wanted it. Okay. So we've now got those jacking points in those four positions here. Okay, they're not how they should be to the scale plan, but again, we're looking at the compromises that we're making to be able to have this bogey pivot correctly. I'm thinking that that gap might need to close up a little bit actually. Let's see if I can just move that ever so slightly. -0.1. Because they are pretty closed up there. That looks better. Okay, and then we're making a compromise on this edge with the overlapping of the buffer beam here, and we are making that compromise on this edge. We've given enough room here for the bogey to pivot. If we need to, we can dig out a little bit of material here because we've got a bit of a gap there. So we'll have a look when we get to the final model. Maybe I'll just have to file a little bit off if it's close, but I think we're there or thereabouts with having those drawn. So I'm going to finish that lesson off where we are today. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's lesson. Please like and subscribe to keep updated when I upload more videos. Thanks for watching.